We do have,
Good to see you.
an update and hear about how things are going on the Green Line. So welcome to the Green Line Extension Corridor Management Committee. For those who are wondering what meeting you're in, there's many corridor management committees these days. But this is the Green Line Extension. Hello, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Great to see everyone.
Welcome back. Yeah, we're glad to see you
Thank you.
back.
I'm right. Human improved. Somebody
help
said
and
Zelly
hanging.
2.0. You never know what you get. Yeah, but honestly, for those who were wondering, I was on medical leave, and now I'm better than ever.
Wonderful.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you. Just a little housekeeping. Mics are live. So I've been told last night, they said, if you see a mic in front of you, assume it's alive. It's a live mic. Also, the meeting is actually being recorded, so members of the public can stream the meeting now or in the future. For those that have comments and maybe part of the public are free to register those with David Davies, David.Davies at metrotransit.org. If you get comments to David before Friday the 10th, they'll be posted on the website. Hello, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So with that, and I actually, because we were so busy visiting with each other, we're going to suspend long introductions because we all know each other, and we're going to go directly into the business. The first item is the minutes from December 7th that were sent out Monday for review. So if there are any edits or corrections?
Mr. Chair, I'll move them.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. We're going to hear an update. We're also very fortunate to have Michael Beer from MnDOT here. We're going to hear about their review. We're going to get into the status of DBE workforce, so the normal kind of protocols. But every meeting is a new items coming forward, so we're kind of looking forward today. But first, let me just highlight just a couple of things since we're together and it relates to public transit. Since we last met, actually in the last couple of weeks, everybody's been watching the news to know that the governor's budget proposal has been made. That is not the final budget. It is a proposal, but I think it's meaningful because it does support public transit in a number of ways. $29 million one-time funds to provide additional funding for electrification of buses. That could either be a match for federal funds or could advance the difference between where we normally buy fleets and the additional cost for not just electric buses but charging systems. We actually have proposed a transit bonding authority. That's something Met Council needs permission to issue debt to buy buses. So that's another $50 million each year, $100 million next biennium. And probably more significantly is the regional transit sales tax that the government is proposing for kind of both operations, capital, costs for the system. We know it's undercapitalized in so many different ways, not just light rail, not just the transitways, the ABRTs, building out, operating a system that is growing. An eighth of a percent is, I will say, for the record, not adequate, but it is a starting point. And I think the governor is open and interested in if that were even a larger amount at the end of the day. So I just want to kind of acknowledge that. You can always find me or any of our Met Council members to talk about it. We certainly will be talking about it over the next few months. The other thing, and this is sad, this is under the poignant news. This is Molly's last CMC meeting, and Molly Cummings, who is retiring from the Met Council, I find that hard to believe, and is the vice chair, but also has played such a role in the Green Line extension, among other things, and being former Mayor Hopkins, representing Hopkins, really representing this whole area, have been a remarkable contributions, and I just think we should acknowledge Molly and know that she has promised she's not disappearing from the scene. You never leave transit, you just wear a different role, so we're going to see you in various roles, advisory in the past, so I don't know if you want to have a long reflection or say a few things.
I don't, I mean, it sounds so trite to say it's a privilege and an honor, but it truly is a privilege and an honor. And, I've been doing this for a long time, involved in the Green Line extension for a very long time on different levels, and it's been my pleasure. Love the CMC, love the people that I work with at the Met Council, my colleagues and so forth. And I'm excited to be here. I'll be sitting over there next time around. Happy to be here today and appreciate all of the work that has been done on this. I think that, our partnership, of course, is so valuable, and the project office and the leadership has been just fabulous. And so I thank you for all that you're doing and continue to do. This is transformative, as we all know, and I've said many times, we've all said many times, not just for the region, for the state. I mean, this is just an incredible project. So thank you, and thank you for all that you do. And everyone around the table, it's important work. Thank you.
Chair? Point of privilege. Just very quickly, yes, thank you for all the work that you've done as the Vice Chair of Met Council, but your involvement with this project, your fingerprints have been on this for years, but going back to your time as mayor in Hopkins, and I just want to say personally that my relationship with Molly has been one of the real joys of my time working on this project, and being a mayor, being able to pick up the phone and call her and ask her, hey, am I missing something here? What don't I understand? And to get your perspective just at a personal level, I really, really appreciate. But I think, yes, the whole region, both in your role as in Met Council, but also in your role as the mayor of Hopkins, there are generations of people who are not yet born who will not know who you are, but will not know their lives without the work that happens, and you own a big part of that. So
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well said, Mary.
Chair Zelli, yes, I would just like to say thank you so much for your service. You are a mentor to me in your role as in the mayor of Hopkins, and in the way that you go about your public service, and for playing this role. And to echo a lot of Mayor Spano's comments, it wasn't me calling you up. Many times you were calling me up and saying, hey, pay attention to this specific issue that's coming up. And so whoever fills your role after this has really big shoes to fill. So thank you so much for your service to the city of Hopkins and the entire region. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to share a few remarks
Please.
too. Your history on this project is incredible, and I only feel like I know a slice of it. But I also want to say, Molly, that you have always been somebody who understood that when we do this difficult work, it's also nice to be good to each other and to interact as humans. And I so appreciate that style, and look forward to emulating that in the future.
Thank you.
Well, you'll be missed, but we're going to see you.
I'll be around.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for those lovely comments. And I keep reminding Molly, so we're having at least 3 meetings today, but her work is not done. We have another month, I think, or 2 till the new council is seated. As I mentioned, we're very honored to have MnDOT. We have 2 representatives, Mike Barnes and Michael Beer, but Michael Beer is really going to give us some kind of a summary of some thoughts from a peer review of the project. And this all kind of happened last year. There was a lot of discussion about, in the legislature and other places, like, are we following the best practice? Is the project team managing the project the best we can? And I thought of this agency I once had some affiliation with, who has real expertise in difficult construction contracting and situations, and this is a difficult one. And actually, even with this contractor, St. Croix Crossing, where I spent a lot of time with Michael, and we worked through some really complicated issues to some great success. And so the thought of actually asking the commissioner was just when Commissioner Keller was there, but Commissioner Daubenberger just coming in. Would it be possible to have a peer review, to kind of have some of the best minds come in and you know, and really an open book to say, like, you know, we want to learn. Are there some things we can do differently? Are there things that we can develop a practice for not just this project, but future projects? And so graciously, Commissioner Daubenberger and Michael and others said, we'll shoehorn in some time, and I think you did spend some time. So there's a report, but I just thought it would, particularly for this group, and you know, would be particularly interested. And we've been living with this project all along, and so you're. And I should say, I know, having 10 years ago started at MnDOT, and really within the first few weeks met the MnDOT staff that were embedded in the Southwest Light Rail project team all along. So this has been a partnership that's been there from the beginning, and there's certain expertise that has always been kind of a collaboration. So this is not a new venture, but it is bringing it at a higher level, and particularly with our construction expertise. So Michael, welcome, and thank you for coming, and appreciate you coming with us today, and we're really interested in your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks for the kind words. My pleasure to be here today. Yeah, it's great to have the relationship. It's been a long time that we partnered on this project, and being able to provide our experience and expertise to review the project, it was beneficial for both of us. Our folks learned something from it too. So just a little bit about procedure. So I'm the Assistant Commissioner in Engineering Services Division for MnDOT, and our Office of Construction and Innovative Contracting is under Engineering Services Division. So those are our folks that have the expertise in statewide administration of our construction projects. So I want to recognize some of our team that worked on this peer review and give you an idea of their years of experience. Tom Raven is the Office Director, just recently retired in December, but he had 30 plus years of construction experience. Paul Johns and Ben Hofer both led the majority of this peer review and the effort, and they've got 20 years, 15 years of construction experience combined between the two of them. So we had a real strong team that led this effort. In July of 2022, we started meeting with the Southwest LRT team. We had about 6 meetings over the summer, a couple site visits, interviewed some of the project staff and consultants that worked on it. And evident to us, real dedicated team, knowledgeable. They're very forthcoming in sharing information, sharing documents, any requests we had that would help facilitate us doing a thorough peer review. Don't want to get too much into the document itself, but our review focused on the contract administration. We didn't focus on the particulars of the plan or the plan development, but really on administering the construction contract and the specifications. We did have about 8 recommendations that we had from our review. Just touch on a couple of them. One of the first ones was the length of time between having the bid opening and awarding the contract, and having 2 rounds of that, let alone the length of time. And that really creates a challenge on a large project, any project, but certainly a large project, multi-year project like this, where the contractor is anticipating starting at a certain date and the project isn't awarded, so their delay gets started. Puts the folks administering the project a little bit behind on trying to stay ahead of all the challenges that come with that, as the contractor's pricing changes and their schedule changes from what they had originally planned and bid. So we had some comments on that, some comments on this being a lump sum contract. For MnDOT, our larger projects, most of our projects are bid items, so each item of work, component of work, has an individual unit bid price. Our design build projects, where the design and the build, the construction is under one contract, those are usually lump sum. So a recommendation in our experience there, that a project this large, a recommendation to have unit bid prices versus all lump sum. Then the inevitable changes that you encounter throughout a project of this duration and this magnitude, you at least have some basis of what the contractor had broken down to do individual unit of costs. It makes negotiating change orders not challenge-free, but it helps have a starting point for that. And then we also had some comments on some of the work that was added after the letting. I know some of the planned work was originally removed from the project to meet your budget. Understandable, we go through the same things. But possibilities to help set your project up should funding or other means become available to bring that work back into the project, to have those as bid additive alternatives so you get a competitive bid for that work. It's not part of the planned work, but an opportunity to bring that work into the project later. So those were just a few of the things I wanted to highlight. And if you have any questions, certainly be available to give you my opinion. Like I said, we put a lot of effort into this, but it was certainly beneficial for our folks as well as your folks to have this opportunity and share our experiences and the challenges this project went through with your team as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And maybe before we open it up, Nick or Jim, Nick, do you just to give perspective on, we've taken some of this, and we've just heard a high level, but it's not like we're saying thank you. We actually are changing some of the things we're doing.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate MnDOT's really, stepping up on this. We asked a lot. They stepped in. It was the MnDOT team that's embedded, but it was all their experts who were also busy on other things came in and really dug in and learned about the project. And in a 6-month time frame, we had these key recommendations for the project itself. We've already early on we talked a lot about cost estimates. That's been one of our challenges on change orders and what could we do differently. And we talked about that early enough that we were able to change how we're going to do independent cost estimates going forward on this project. We have a new procurement that is being considered right now. So we know we have a few more years on this project and there'll be more change orders. And so taking from that recommendation early on, we've already implemented that on this project. But we also had staff from the Blue Line Extension participate in this process and Gold Line. So that those are 2 active major projects that we have that we want to embed the learnings from what MnDOT is recommending in those. And we already have. For Gold Line, we were able to award the project within 37 days of opening the bids, which is a major advancement for how we've been awarding it. We've been really working on that since learning from Green Line in 2018, 2019. We have separated out independent cost estimates on Gold Line and Blue Line from the design contractor. I think that's one of the strong recommendations MnDOT made here that we are implementing now on those 2 projects. And then
say that again, Nick, I'm sorry.
We're separating out who does independent cost estimates from who is the engineer of record in design.
Got it.
So having 2 different entities, there's less, there's more objectivity, less conflict.
And I think as the chair has mentioned a few times in the past is we're not building a tunnel or near a freight railroad on Blue Line or Gold Line. So those are 2 things that were major related to some of the findings on Green Line Extension, but in the project complexity. But so we have this report. We've posted it on the project website. We're sharing it with all our capital program staff, procurement staff, so that we want to be very transparent about what we've learned from this process and how we're implementing it going forward. It's not just a one-time. I think it's been very beneficial to us, and it will pay dividends for our projects going forward too.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Chair. More a comment, but thank you for that report. It's really interesting. I think, pretty much everything that the Met Council is building is in, out, over, under something, that a roadway or a project or something. So I think it's really, really important to have this kind of information. And everything we do, we learn from for the next project. And no project is going to be perfect. So we're always learning and refining and moving forward. And so I think this kind of peer review is super, super important. And I'm glad to hear Nick, so going forward, I know that we've learned a lot. So going forward, are there specific things that you can think of that we would do differently other than the things that you've
Yeah.
already mentioned, or?
Michael had mentioned the lump sum
Yeah.
contract, how we break out portions of the project. We have done that on Gold Line,
Mhm.
and I think on Blue Line, we're gonna take that several steps further, because the light rail projects are even much bigger and longer in term.
Mhm.
And so that's where, and we have plenty of time to do that, but we, that's prior to the construction documents, which are a few years away. And so, we have both our project team for Blue Line, they're tasked with how are you gonna implement that recommendation for that construction project. The awarding of the project, right, as soon as we can after the bids are open, that has been a priority, not just for our transit projects, but in the council. So aligning, with our council processes, there's several approvals through committees that are a little bit unique compared to MnDOT for bid approvals. But aligning when we open bids to when we award those bids and shrinking that, we've been hearing that from our contractors, especially in this bid environment. You've got to shorten that time period up. So setting a goal of 45 days or less is very important, not just for transit projects, for anything though, so they can lock in prices and other things with the volatility. So we're doing that. And then the other one of the big recommendations is the base schedule, agreeing to that base schedule. We are mimicking sort of MnDOT's specifications of from when you award the contract to when you have agreed upon schedule. We've incorporated that in Gold Line. We anticipate we'll incorporate that in Blue Line. We've had a lot of challenges on Green Line extension with what is the schedule, what can we hold the contractor accountable to, in part because some of the unique instances of the things we've encountered with the tunnel and rescoping and adding scope. But we've really MnDOT's got a best practice there, our contracting community uses it. So if we can mimic that as much as we can with base schedule, I think that'll go a long way on our future projects too.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts? No, Jim?
When I read the peer review, I was a little bit surprised to see that for a contract that was let in November of 2018, that there was no baseline schedule until the settlement agreement dated March 17, 2022. And I'd like to understand that better. I mean, it's completely befuddling to me on a biggest public work project in Minnesota history, that there was no baseline schedule for a contract of this size. I'd like a little bit more understanding.
Well, there was a
around that
schedule,
issue.
but it was renegotiated. Jim,
Yeah,
do you want to take
I
that?
can speak to that. So we did have a schedule in place, and our challenge was we, with the delay that we had for just lifting off the project procurement, you recall that we were waiting for LONP approval from FDA, so that took us quite some time. We had to extend the bids twice during that period, so that's what Michael was referring to, that we had a long duration before we could actually award the contract. And so we had a schedule in place. We didn't have approval of that schedule. That was the challenge. And because we weren't in agreement with what the contractor had forecasted, and we worked through that, and we ended up approving that schedule. I don't have the actual dates, but we did have a schedule before the rebaseline was done. And we're always working toward the schedule. The challenge was, as we got to the rebaseline period, we had so many changes that we had to do a reset. And so that was the purpose, the sole purpose of doing the settlement agreement, to get a reset on the schedule.
Okay.
So I just want to emphasize there was a schedule in place. Initially it wasn't agreed to, but the contractor was still working toward that schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Just ask a quick question, or maybe one's a favor and one's a question. Maybe in the minutes or in follow-up, send the link out to where on the website. I just did a Google search because I haven't had a chance to read it. So one question I have is, there's been discussion about sort of ownership of the project, right? Should projects like this be the things that council's doing? Should it be the state? Should it whatever? Did the report talk at all about that or address that at all, or was it really more the mechanics of the management process? So
It was the mechanics of the management process. We didn't get into that.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Other questions? All right, thank you, Michael, very much, and we will continue to be reviewing that and talking to you and your colleagues along the way.
Yeah, thank you. And we're available as needed if you have more questions. Thanks.
We know where you live.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to get a project update now, and then we'll have more questions on some of these issues, like what the mayor described. So, Jim, take it away.
All right, thank you, Chair. So we'll lift off with talking about systems schedule. I'm looking at Commissioner Goodell. You typically have questions for me on this, so hopefully I can get you
How
up to
come
speed.
you're looking at me?
So I know you're holding me accountable. So we are making some headway. We actually are looking to get to our management committee later this month. Now that we're in February, to get a change order in place that sets the schedule in the contract, and the schedule will add 28 months to the systems contract, so that brings us up to about May of 2026. And it also sets a process for an alternative disputes resolution process, which is similar to what we have in the civil contract, or in the process that we talked about last year. And so this will set the stage to negotiate a price, because there's going to be a cost associated with that initial 28 months, and that'll take some time. I don't really have a forecasted date of that, but I hope to get that finished probably in the second quarter of this year. So stay tuned on that. One of the things I think you did mention is the systems contractor did present a cap of $64 million. We anticipate it's going to be a lot less than that, but with this juncture, we don't know what that amount is going to be. They've already kind of lowered their number from that, but in the change order, we'll have a cap similar to what we had on the civil construction contractor. The agreement we had with LMJB, they had $288 million. We're hopefully going to be much lower than that once we settle everything. But I would caveat this is the delay that we have experienced with the CCANTs last year, particularly last year. We still haven't accounted for that for the civil construction schedule and the systems construction schedule, so those will still have to be considered as we move forward. And everybody's going in with his eyes wide open, but we don't have a full assessment of that impact yet. Still got a long ways to go on the tunnel to really assess what that's going to mean for us. But this is an important step for us. We're going to transfer our management committee on the 8th of February and the full council on the 22nd. And we'll be full-fledged in getting our experts involved, looking at the numbers that the JV, in this terms Aldridge Parsons JV, sets before us, so we can begin to negotiate a fair and reasonable number.
Quick question, just to follow up. First of all, thank you for that detailed information on this. This is what I would have asked for anyway, and I appreciate that. On that CCANT delay, do we have an estimate of what that timeline is going to be for the delay even? Do we think we know something?
Yes, it is something we're looking at. We experienced, went from about January, end of January through July, so that's a good number of months. That I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a day-for-day delay, but it's something that we're taking a hard look at. It's also going to be kind of a negotiation with the contractor. Can they do any improvements on the tunnel construction? Because we all know that's a long lead item to get this done, so maybe we can recoup some of that lost time. So it's something that we're currently working with the contractor scheduler to figure out where that's going to place us in time.
So we'll have an update maybe in a couple months?
Yes, I would think so, later this spring.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on systems? I'll move on. So I think, Commissioner, you had some questions about safety last time. So this is a slide that we put together. We help the city of Minneapolis with an annual freight rail safety meeting. So this is just a slide from that. But I think we were looking for some numbers. And what we track are recordable incidences.
Yep.
And that's essentially, for all those who are not in the know of what the recordable means, it's when someone would lose time at work, and or they're on restricted duty for some injury. And thus far on the civil construction contract, we have 49 recordables, and that's out of about 2.5 million hours worked over the past 3.5 years or so. So, I wouldn't say they're they're doing spectacular, but they are improving on their numbers. 2020 in particular was not a so good year for them, but the numbers have been improving as we've been moving through in time here. It is something the contractor is continuing to have focus on. The primary categories are slips and falls and cuts, those type of things. There hasn't been anything real devastating on the contract, and hopefully it stays that way. But we continue to monitor that with our field staff. We're continuing to work with the contractor to make sure it's safe out there.
So no serious?
No super serious
Okay,
things,
good
but
to hear.
kind of depends on your frame of.
Well, I know, but they have them
But,
kind of categorized in
yeah.
safety.
Right.
So, nobody's lost part of a finger or.
I don't know if I can say that definitively.
Okay.
There has been some cuts to the fingers with
Well, I know there's
the
always
saws and
cuts.
that type of thing. I just didn't have that. But it's always a challenge when you're kind of, for those of you who work at home, those folks are doing that day in, day out. It's particularly in this type of weather, it's something that you really need to keep a focus on.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, just we'll continue to update on construction workers. So here's the updated stats as far as folks working on the project, and this is the individuals that have touched the project in some manner or form on the construction side of things. And I think more importantly, we're still touting the involvement from folks from the state. So 69 and 87 counties are represented with 79%, so that's pretty significant. John Tao will talk later about the DVE involvement, but $200 million is nothing to sneeze at. We've a lot of money gone to DVE entities on these contracts we have. So we are going to, I think we're going to next meet in April, because we do it every other month. We'll have more of an update of upcoming events, and I think we're slated to do some visits to city councils and some town halls later this spring to talk about upcoming construction. So we'll get more into detail of this kind of a general where a lot of the work is going to be focused as we move forward. And I've got some snapshots out of Southwest Station. We are progressing quite a bit. This is the interior waiting area that we have constructed. We're looking to turn this over to Southwest Transit, hopefully in a couple of months, but it's starting to get finished up. As you can see, the flooring is getting all completed. This is something that we worked out in agreement with Southwest Transit. They had a waiting facility in their existing complex, and so they had to be removed for the station that we have now built. And so this is going to be accommodating for bus and rail passengers. There's a snapshot of Opus Station I just took a couple days ago while my fingers were about to break off because it's cold. But this is the part of the development that we talked about last time, Dominium in the background, for lots of stuff happening in the Opus area. Minnetonka Hopkins LRT Bridge. Now there really isn't a lot of construction going on. We have construction going on at that Southwest Station and the interior space and the tunnel, but things are really kind of slowed down, particularly this week with colder weather. Shady Oak Station coming along.
Chair Zelli, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I ask where, on the Shady Oak Station, where we're at with the surface parking?
We are still a ways away. We're still negotiating a change order with the contractor to get that into the contract. So, but we have plans. We're still looking to build that north end and defer the south.
And how many spots currently?
Gosh, maybe I'll see if Ryan knows the numbers offhand. I don't have.
Ryan Cronch with the project office.
Highway.
North, parking lot north of the platform is just about 200 stalls, and the balance may end up south of the station. That's still in the first stage.
Balance of how many, approximately?
Up to 500.
Okay. I wouldn't be doing my job in coming to these meetings if I didn't say that Hopkins is 4 square miles. We're one of the poorest cities, both in terms of the city itself and then its residents. And having a surface parking lot of that size is a huge hit to our city. And so with federal infrastructure dollars that are out there, any kind of political champion that can hear this, anything that we can do, and I appreciate everything that's been done by Met Council to reduce the amount of surface parking on that spot as it is. But that's a huge hit this is a 50 to 100-year decision that we're making for our city, and so any kind of assistance that we can get in getting density of parking, which in normal speak, a parking ramp at that spot would be much appreciated, and any assistance that can be offered there. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you for your comment.
All right, so we're gonna scoot a little eastward to the Excelsior Boulevard Bridge. That's really come along. They're doing some abutment work in January there to button up the structure on that. So that's, the bridge has really come along. Blake Road Station, just more development in the background. A lot of things happening at Blake Road Station. This is the Allen in the background there. It's I think they're just starting another site construction just to the left of this where you see in the background there. Louisiana Station, still work on that over the winter time. And Westlake.
That Louisiana Station, Jake, I like that minimalist look.
Well, we're not done yet.
We prefer it's sort of a mid-century modern vibe that we're going for here in St. Louis Park.
Yeah, it's all finished. It's gonna look just like.
Well, I'll just say that the stations are all going to be looking kind of like the Opus station does, so it's not we're not cemetery here. Let's see. Westlake Station. Just wanted to kind of show in the background a couple of developments that the Westlake quarter off to the right, and Ryan, I don't remember the name of the one with the cranes, but that's over there.
Former BP gas station
Yeah.
project.
Oh, it's a hotel.
Yeah, it's the hotel, and the tunnel. So I want to talk about the tunnel a little bit before I get to some of these images. We're about 94% complete on the secants. I don't have photos of that today, but I just want to advise that we did encounter an impediment that we're trying to investigate. We'll be looking at that this month to understand what that is. Not quite clear what it is yet, but it is impacting maybe 7 to 11 of the secants, and so we're trying to get that sorted out. So this could be another delay that we have had to experience, but we'll hopefully know more toward the end of the month of what this really means. But the secants are moving along pretty well, 94%. That means that there's 16 left to do. So we're getting close, but this is something we're tracking very closely.
So, may I, just on that, what have you found? Is it more difficult through the winter weather to try to discover what this is, or is it easier? I'm sure we got a crew down there, right, trying to figure this out.
Well, due to making my life more uncomfortable, it's just things that seem to happen in January, and so yes, it's going to be tougher to just because fingers aren't moving as well, equipment is slower, everything slows down in this type of weather. In fact, we haven't been working much this week because of the sub-zero weather, but this is going to pick up.
Of course.
Yeah, it does compromise the efficiency of things. But we haven't started taking a look at it yet on the ground surface. Done some little subsurface work, but we actually need to get down in there to see
Yes.
what it is.
Okay.
All right, so just some images of the tunnel. Tunnel is still progressing. Just a couple weeks ago, we placed about 1,500 cubic yards in what we call a tremie seal. It's an initial concrete slab, if you will, that goes in underwater in the tunnel. But there's some work doing shotcrete to fill up the recessed areas in the sheet piling, and some floor slab work here. And we did move the pedestrian tunnel to the bridge, temporary pedestrian bridge to the north a bit, still accommodating that access across. And also, for those of you interested, that we have a board up there at Sunset and Cedar Lake there to describe the workings of the tunnel construction. So if you happen to get out there and you want to see the actual how this thing's put together, you can
I think that board is great. I see people looking at it. I don't know if Council Member Goodman has seen it, but it's something she's asked for a while. It's really well placed.
Thank you. Another effort here that's not so much this over the winter time, but Cedar Lake Channel Pedestrian Bridge is the third of the 3 bridges we are building across the channel, just north of the tunnel. And this plastic enclosure here is where we're doing what's called the WPA wall reconstruction. This was a commitment back in the environmental process to reconstruct the shoreline on the Cedar Lake Channel. So this work is underway, and that work is progressing well. But we need to have it all enclosed because they're doing concrete work, and we need to keep the temperatures to a reasonable manner to get that work done.
I'm sorry, Jim, out of curiosity, where are we on the bottom of the stream bed there, or what's?
Yes, we are. We
Oh.
have essentially sheet piles on both ends, and we have essentially de-watered that area, if you will. Remove the water, because we can't use the word de-water in this area. But we're essentially rebuilding the walls on both of the lines of the channel there. All right, Bryn Mawr Station, and not a lot going on there. I think there was a little bit of movement there since our report in December. And Bassett Creek Valley, they're doing a bit of work, vertical work on this station as well as we are progressing into the cold weather. It's now kind of shut down. And Glenwood Avenue, still commit to you that we're going to get this roadway open in 2023, and but we will have some closures. You know, once we get Glenwood opened up, we'll have Railston to close down because we have an at-grade crossing there. It'll take some time to get that done, and so that's still a bit of ways away. But again, we'll give you an update more. Kind of zoom in on that next time we meet. Railston Avenue Farmers Market, a little work that was progressing in December, in January, but now we're kind of shut down for the winter there. And Fifth Avenue, 7th Street, I think they're doing some, taking some false work out, which was supporting the structure that's been built. Now, we still have to build over the roadway. We'll have some closures there. We'll have to more likely do these over the weekend, closures to get the bridge completed over to the other side so we can connect to the main line. So maybe I'll pause there for a moment. Any questions on civil construction?
Jim,
Okay.
a quick question. Since I brought this up at every meeting over the years, I would be remiss to not bring it up at my last one. Can you talk a little bit about tours that you have planned? I'm a huge proponent of tours. I think it gives people an understanding of the depth and breadth and challenges and complexity, and then all the benefits of the line that are incredible. So I would guess that you're starting to think about that, and that we can all be putting together groups of interested people to take tours.
Yes, definitely. That'll be a theme like we do every year. We'll be holding some tours. I think it will give folks an update when we come in our next meeting in April. But you know, typically we invite the public for various tours. We'll probably do 3 or 4 of those throughout the season, and you know, throughout the project to give folks. They're pretty well attended. They get filled up pretty quickly. But also offer from this group, if there's an interest to go out, or the individual cities want to do something, we can always accommodate. We're up for taking folks around to show what's out there.
Thanks.
Jim, it's not a civil question, construction question, but just directionally on the locations, any new developments happening, any new TOD projects underway that have popped up in the last couple of months?
You know, as far as new development, the things that I'm aware of going out have been out there for a little bit. You know, but like I say, you know, the prime spots. So Westlake there's a lot of things happening in that area. Blake is just going big time. Wooddale, you know, that's pretty much kind of built out. There's a lot of work going kind of going backwards here, but going south of Beltline Station. A lot of work around Steel Toe area. And so I mentioned Blake, and Opus is just really going strong. There's a lot of housing going up in that area.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. We do have I don't know if you were here last time, but we did maybe we can send you the link on Michael Kranz did a presentation on development around the corridor that is kind of helpful to look at. We'll make sure we'll get that out to folks. All right, let's go into systems. Not a lot of work going out there again because of the cold weather, but there is still some OCS work here, and this is in the Southwest Station area, and doing some foundation work for traction power substations. We have a handful of those underway right now, and OCS poles. We'll see OCS poles going all the way through Eden Prairie and making their way into up the Opus area in Minnetonka. And Signal House, again, foundation work here. I did want to, maybe before I go to the slide, maybe kind of give you some stats, because I get this question a lot. You know, we're overall the project, we're over 70% complete. That's the complete project. So you got to keep in mind, we've got LRVs in there. We have 7 vehicles out and running service right now, and includes all the systems and the civil that's been done to date, the Franklin facility, which is now complete. For our civil, we're over 75% complete, and you know the big piece is the tunnel, really, and some of the components on the east end. And systems, overall, it's around just under 50%. But I want to couch that has to do with it's more of a design build approach that systems does. So we have a lot of design done in hand, but they're also manufacturing, testing equipment. We're using that storage facility that we had mentioned before, where we did a change order to keep on building all that equipment, traction power, the signal houses. Those are getting housed into that storage facility. So overall, systems around, you know, just under 50%. Out in the field, you'll see probably around 10%. So there's a little differential, so you're not going to see a lot of stuff out in the field, but that'll be improving as we get into 2023. The systems contractor is really moving forward.
So, Jim, do I understand from this slide that right now the Kenilworth Trail is open as a currently open temporary condition?
Well, maybe I could walk through this because I know Mayor Spano had a question. So this is a slide that we've been presenting in the past here, and I'll maybe start at the west end. So the where we have red, that's where the trail is currently closed, and we have the projected date of when that's going to open. So, for example, the Minnesota River Bluffs Trail is projected to open this year. And in yellow, those are areas where it's currently open, but it's in a temporary condition, so it'll have to be still constructed to be in the final condition. And the green is where we have completed the work and we're open. So I think Commissioner, over here speaking in the Kenilworth Trail, that south piece is still closed. That's where the tunnel is constructed. We really don't have any room to put a trail there at this juncture, but north of 21st, we have that trail open on the existing facility. Eventually, we'll have to do some maneuvering to get the new trail in place, and we'll have to sort through with the city on the park board on the detour on that. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like yet. Does that answer your question there?
I guess just to put a fine point on it, so it's open now, those segments north of the tunnel.
Yes, where you see yellow, it's open, but it's in a temporary condition, so it's not a final complete. And where in green, it's open. And then we also I was hoping to at the end of last year, but just didn't work out, because we got to keep in mind on the stretch that's along the Bass Lake Spur, which essentially from Minnesota, from essentially the Minnesota River Bluffs Trail all the way up to the Kenilworth. We have an agreement with TC&W that things need to be in place, and Three Rivers has an interest in this as well, so things need to be in place before we can open things up. But I am hopeful that we can open up Lake to just west of Louisiana. There's a little outlet that goes to the north. So we're looking to get some fencing work done once we get the weather to do that this spring. So I'm hopeful we can open that up as well. The stretch that I know everybody's interested, Mayor, that from Excelsior over to Blake, that's still going to be out a ways. And but got my eye on that. As you all know, I'm a biker, right into work, and so this is something I'm keeping an eye on, keep on challenging our staff with, what can we do?
Cheers, Al. Can I just go
Yeah.
on record and say
Sure.
thank you for all the work you've done around this and making adjustments to get those trails open. I know you are an avid biker and you're really listening to the bike and pedestrian community and getting those trails open, so thank you.
All right. So I think that, I got a few more, I guess I'll do day-to-day slides here. So just to tout our activity out there, we have over 2,100 meetings on this project since we took it on in 2012. And that accounts for 51,000 people. Can't attest as individuals because I've seen some of those folks time and again at these meetings, but still, I think that's pretty significant. We have been out there, out in the arena, because I'll just put out that we take a lot of criticism that we're not transparent, we're not getting out there. We have been out there, and we'll continue to be out there with communication on this project. All right, and then just activity over 2022, just the number of calls and emails on issues that come up, and you can see the hotline calls are kind of slimming down as we get further into construction here, and we'll see this as we start finishing up civil, that the systems contract is much less intrusive for folks. We're not necessarily driving a lot of piles and making a lot of racket out there. And we continue to provide the construction update newsletter, although we're doing it bi-weekly now just because of the slow construction season through the winter here, but we'll ramp that back up in the spring, but to give you a flavor for subscribers and the open rate there. And we did put together a year-end video. We do this on a regular basis. Trevor Roy put that together. If you get a chance to, there's a link there to take a look at and see where the work is. This is City West Station. It's really come along with the parking right off to the left there. And that's the end of my presentation, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim or the project team?
Just a fun question, because we do know you're a biker. Have you been biking to work this last week?
Well, I bike every day except for today because when I was going home yesterday, my chain broke. So
Oh, no.
I had to take the car, and I'll tell you that I'm colder driving in the car than I am on my bike. It's
Wow.
just, it's just.
You need to put pedals in your car.
I'll be back at it
Those
tomorrow.
Flintstone cars that we, forget about the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, Jim, just an overall question on supply chain issues. I know we're still dealing with a little bit of that on our projects, especially when it comes to steel, but have any of your subs indicated that there may be some issues coming up that could delay the project, or anything that you're aware of at this time that may cause some major issues?
Yeah, we haven't really seen that as a problem. I think one of the things that, with this change order we did on the systems contract really help do some mitigation in that front, because we're continuing to build under contracts before they were, I think we did that contract in 2019, so things were already set in motion, and we kept that rolling. But we are still dealing with the, conduit is, the price of PVC is just kind of going up and down, so that's getting kind of crazy. But we haven't really been impacted, and hopefully that's the case as we move forward. Fortunately, we're probably taking up a lot of the concrete last couple of years from other people, so that'll start slowing down as we finish up with the structures.
Thanks.
Jim?
This is an overarching question. It's kind of a follow-on to Debbie's question earlier. Do you see anything in these projected delays that causes you to adjust the final open for business date?
Yes, good question. At this juncture, I do not. We're still holding in 2027, and we'll be advising if we see an issue with that. We do have some wiggle room in there for that, but it's something we're really keeping an eye on.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, first of all, thank you for bringing me the safety data. I really appreciate that. Is that year to date?
Yes, that's since the contract started.
It's not all that bad. It's not.
Well, if you
On
want
the
to
size of the contract.
there's a what is that? I wrote this down. The total case incident rate that is tracked for construction projects. And if you look at you know, this is like a national stat for civil heavy construction, which we kind of fit in. You know, to keep in mind, we have freight rail, we have a lot of different things in this project. That rate would say we want to be about 2.1, and we're about 3.8. So
Okay.
we are higher than
We are higher.
what that. But I would say that the contractor, again, going back to the 2020 date, they were pretty high on that year, but they've really come down in the twos since then. But you know, once you kind of are there with all the hours, it's really hard to recover overall.
It is, I know, I track that.
But it is something that we continue to have a lot of focus on. And this is something we report to FTA on a monthly basis, so they're aware of what's going on with the work.
Great question. All right, so let's move on to our DBE and workforce report. John, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so slide 42 here. And these are some of the achievements and what's been billed to date by the contractors and the DBEs to date, and the achievement for the civil and the systems contract. As you can see, we took out the Franklin O&M project because that one closed, so we moved that one under the closed contracts. Jim shared earlier that the systems contract is, you know, in negotiations, and you know, our interactions with the systems contractor, you know, they are being proactive in including DBEs in their activities to date, and trying to build a buffer as things are going along. And this is really helpful as you know, the contract moves along and is becoming more active in 2023 here. So as you can see, you know, they're sitting at 17% on a 12% goal. So that is really helpful as, you know, they are starting to do more work, and things are starting to progress and become more active for the systems contract. Next slide. And then this is just a summary of all the construction contracts and the DBE contracts overall for these 4 construction-related contracts. And as they stand, the DBE contracts are sitting at 17.92%. So as we are moving towards the end of the project, we'll be coming closer to that 18%. Yeah, there hasn't been any changes to the DBE contract, so this is still the same from the previous months too. Next slide. And then talking about workforce participation and the hours that have been worked on this project, considering that this is the end of November where we captured some of these numbers, it hasn't really changed too much. You know, the winter time and this time of year, things really slow down. But what we are doing on our DBE and Workforce Advisory Committee is we are gathering some of the members there and the folks that have capacity to start having conversations about strategies on how we can help move the needle in 2023. Because if you've looked in some of the past reports, the achievement for women and PLCI have kind of plateaued as construction has reached a point. And then, you know, we're trying to, you know, work with the contractors and the community-based organizations, and trying to find like what other strategies do we have to keep people on there and get more folks on there as the work continues on in the systems contract. So we're starting to have those conversations. It's a great time for us to have those conversations as things are preparing and the contractors are preparing for the spring and summer season. So those are some of the activities that I'm sharing about from the DBE and Workforce Advisory Committee. And I think that does it for my slides.
Great. I'll open it up. Any questions for John? All right, we'll keep tracking.
Thank you.
With that, that is the information items we have for you today. Any overall questions, comments? Commissioner?
Yeah, Chair Zelli, thank you. Just to elevate a topic that I've been hearing about from residents, I did a recent state in the city, and this was highlighted even among folks who have historically been strong advocates and proponents of this project, and for potential consideration as a future topic for this body. It's this nexus of public perception and experience at the intersection of public safety, rider experience, and also how we sort of meet the needs of diverse needs of our residents who sometimes use our transit as a sort of shelter of last resort, all the associated things that come with that. I think about the reputational context, the public context within which our residents here in the West Metro are thinking about this project. We've got the delays and other impacts that are part of the public discourse. I think this is increasingly becoming part of the discourse as well, and I think equipping members of this body in particular who are out there as advocates and champions for this project with some information that we can give to our residents and other leaders to help assure them that this is something that we take seriously, both the ridership and the public safety concerns, but also just meeting the needs of the broad and diverse needs of our residents, I think may be a worthy topic, though a little outside of the scope of construction project updates. But I think about things like the economic development report that we had at the last session that wasn't specifically about project construction, but that's been a really real powerful narrative driver to talk about the development around this project and the benefits that's brought. So I think this could be another salient topic.
Yeah, thank you for the comment, and I agree. Even though we focus on the construction, the capital cost, the process, without safe operations, why are we building these? I mean, and it is the topic that we all are asked, and that we are all actually leaning into. I am often saying, and have for some time, is the number one priority for Metro Transit is the safety and the welcoming atmosphere of the transit experience, which is not at a standard that's acceptable. It just isn't, and it's gotten worse. And we, in a way, kind of talk a lot about a 40-point plan, but that's not a good title for what is a kind of a comprehensive step-by-step, everything from architectural changes to training, and to just expanding the police force and our community service officer presence. A lot of it comes down to workforce. There's some positive indications recently, article about St. Paul police force, we're seeing, that maybe this is turning around in order to recruit people, which is really key. I will say for this body, but I think it's worth a deeper dive in a future agenda to go into what actually are we doing. But it was recently announced this last week, a new police chief will be starting on February 27th.
Yeah.
This is somebody who comes with deep urban experience in transit in New York, has been a chief of a suburban in New York, Mount Vernon, a city. And I think actually will bring a kind of a fresh energy to both recruit and to think out of the box. We've had some wonderful candidates. We're finalists, some internal. And if stability is what we want, we had a lot of options. We need more than stability. We need to do things differently. Knowing, and we'll have more conversations, that what we can do in terms of our role of creating safety within transit platforms, we are big partners with counties, cities, other police forces, other social service agencies. And I think we're just in the middle of something, and we have a lot more to do. So I kind of invite the presentation, and then two, the conversation, because we have some other thoughts about how we need to be creating more work groups to address what we are all facing, not just on a transit platform. It's kind of very relevant.
And thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up, because it is something I probably hear more about that now than I do about kind of budget overages and timelines and delays, right? That, maybe there's a point at which those two, the calls that I get has crossed maybe. So perhaps what I might suggest is when Chief I think Morales is it?
Yes.
His name? Chief Morales. You know, once he's had a chance to kind of get his feet under him, maybe perhaps having him come here and talk a little bit about just his
Good
thoughts
idea.
and observations as he's come in. And I know that our chief, we have a new police chief here,
Yes.
Chief Crewley, is the discussion we've had with Met Council or Met Transit PD has always been about that collaboration and partnership that will be important between cities and Metro Transit. So, you know, I might just have him come in and get a chance to meet us and hear from us and us mostly from him.
Well, and thank you, Mayor. And in fact, when he went through the due diligence and interviewing process, I think you will be impressed. He's a charismatic guy, but I think part of his role, and he believes is, to create even greater alliances and collaborations and working with others. And so I think it's you don't want to put it on one leader because there's a multifaceted plan, but I think there is that is one of the key new leaders within Met Transit is the police chief. And we are now in a search process for a new general manager for Metro Transit. So that's another key leader. And we all of us have to face safety and the welcoming environment of transit experience as the number one experience issue that we need to be focusing on. So, yeah, and I think having the police chief come to this body and others is a really good idea. Any other thoughts for the order? Great to see everybody. We will see you soon, and know that you're welcome anytime along the Kenilworth Trail to see the tunnel. There are people out there every day. All right, with that, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, St. Louis Park, for hosting.